Welcome back, everybody, to the Madden 07 Albuquerque Vipers franchise. The 2020 season was a pretty great one for the Vipers. Unfortunately, they fell just short in the Super Bowl, and if you haven't seen that game yet, I would recommend going back and checking it out because it was an instant classic. One thing I do want to look at is the career stats, both around the NFL as well as our team-specific career stats. Orlando Cross has the best quarterback rating out of all active quarterbacks right now with 106.5, which I think would be an NFL record in real life. DeJon Beasley, former Vipers backup, is right behind him there. Most yards goes to Orlando Cross as well, 1,000 more than Aaron Rodgers, who has 9,000 more than Shannon Pleasant in third place. Then you got Parrish Walker and John Owens. Cross also has the most touchdowns ahead of Rodgers and Pleasant. I think you can tell which quarterbacks have been around the longest now, as all three of these guys have been starters since 2007. And despite all the interceptions that Orlando Cross has thrown, he ranks number 3 between those three players. Shannon Pleasant has thrown 3 more, and then Aaron Rodgers, out of all quarterbacks, has 208. He's also the most sacked quarterback, 43 more times than our franchise guy, who's been taken down 3 more times than Shannon Pleasant. John Martin is the current leading rusher of active players, ahead of Curtis Maddox, Jason Crawford, the reigning MVP, Dexter Thompson, who had a down season. As he is getting up there in age, Crawford has the most rushing touchdowns ahead of Martin, the other Martin here, Maddox, and Fernandez. When it comes to receivers, Scott Young has the most receptions over, I believe, his former teammate, Daryl Fulton. I want to say they played together in Indianapolis, although they may not have actually overlined. Kerry Little is also there. Receiving yards, of course, it's going to go to the guy with the most receptions, but touchdowns is going to go to Fulton. Thurman Carson is one of 3 active players with over 1,000 career tackles. Most sacks goes to Jesse Baker. Daryl Fannin with 114 just misses the top 5. I guess he is tied for 5th on the list. Most interceptions goes to Leroy Brandit, and he didn't even play this season. Darren Gordon is up there on this list. Catches allowed. Nice to see that there aren't any Vipers up here. Gordon is eventually up there, but he's also been playing for a long time, and you're just going to allow catches to happen. That's just part of the position. Eric McGrady with the most forced fumbles. Mo Frazier with 22 fumbles recovered. And then you have 2 players with 7 defensive touchdowns, and I know I've given Isaac Ford at least one of his. When it comes to field goals attempted and made, Brian Koch is right down here at number 6. But when it comes to players who have attempted more than a single field goal, he is tied with Hopkins with the best field goal percentage, and Hopkins has only played 1 year. Despite his mistake in the Super Bowl, Harold White is up here with kick return yards, and he also has the most kick return touchdowns. Warren Davis is the one who's been a real weapon on punt returns, though he has 10 of them. And I really thought Orlando Cross was going to be up here for games played, but I guess with his injury history, he's buried down here at 211. Aaron Rodgers also has by far the most first downs, ahead of Shannon Pleasant, Parrish Walker, and then our very own Orlando Cross. Here's a brief overview of all of his stats real quick, and a little bit of playing time that Antonio McGuire has gotten. The former MVP is also our leading rusher, but that's because Deron Daniels has only played 3 seasons now. Ryan Franks has been largely a backup, over half of his yards coming in just a single season for us a couple of years ago. Darius Floyd, only 2 seasons in Albuquerque so far. Most of his time has been spent in San Francisco and Pittsburgh. Kurt Workman, not a single reception for us this season. Maybe he'll get some more playing time in the future with 1 year left on his contract. And defensively, it's the future Hall of Famer Daryl Fannin with the most tackles, and of course tied with the most sacks. Both these defenders only got 2 this season, and then next up is 16 with JJ Jones, who got half of those in his rookie campaign. Of course, Gordon's going to have the most interceptions on the team. Mark Scott is only 2 behind him though, and he had 6 this season. Justin Williams, not too shabby at 20 either. I also want to highlight Daryl Fannin with 3, and that doesn't count the one he got in the postseason on a 2-point conversion in the playoffs this year. The Pro Bowl also finished as a very high scoring affair. I actually did hop in and play this one, so here's a couple highlights for you. I was in control of the AFC for most of this game. We're going to start off with a flea flicker to Indianapolis quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who finds the Ravens. Reese recent Super Bowl champion Hakeem Morton in the end zone for 6. Into the second quarter, and Alex Malone sees a 99-speed wide receiver Pittman down here, who on his first catch of the Pro Bowl completely burns his man. On a following drive, it's just a 1-point game, and where do you think Malone is going again? His second completed pass of the day went to Pittman, who his second reception was another long touchdown. 99 speed is just unfair. The main reason why I took control of the AFC is I wanted to see what it was like to play against Orlando Cross, who was the backup quarterback for the NFC, but at first it didn't seem to be too difficult. When the fourth quarter came around, though, he was making things a lot closer with this touchdown over here to Jones to tie the game up at 48 apiece. Malone drops back to throw, and where do you think he's going? None other than Pittman in a contract season, so maybe we'll see him with the Vipers. I feel like that would just be straight up unfair. This would just be the nail in the coffin, and Crawford, the reigning MVP, is in. Orlando Cross back in here at quarterback, trying to pull the NFC within a little bit closer. No one is pressuring him, but his pass gets tipped up into the air and intercepted, meaning the AFC is winning their first Pro Bowl since 2014. And I also want to remind you guys that down in the description, you can find a spreadsheet of the Vipers' all-time stats. It's not totally up to date, but a lot of the important things are there. And as of now, a lot of it should be updated through 2020. So now, without further ado, let's jump into the 2021 offseason. And with a great 2020 campaign, the Vipers made over $166 million. We're also going to be going through some coaching retirements, such as Lowry from the Titans. You got Walsh retiring from the NFL, Pease retiring from the NFL, DeHaven, Crosby, Zahner, ooh, that's our special teams coach who's actually retiring. And looks like our coordinators' contracts also ran out, but I'm going to try to bring them back, starting with our OC, Andy Reid. Surely being our offensive coordinator is going to be better than the Vikings special teams coach. And speaking of the Vikings, it looks like they want to hire Phillip Rivers to be their head coach. There he is. I finally found our defensive coordinator of the last 2 seasons. Let's keep him around for 3 more because whatever he was doing seemed to be working. Now we have to find a new special teams coordinator, and I thought about going after Rich Bisaccia, or I could get John Harbaugh, who's been with the Cardinals since 2009. So we're looking to steal a coach from inside of our own division. And I just noticed this a little bit too late after re-signing Andy Reid. Larry Fitzgerald has entered the coaching ranks. Doesn't look like anyone's going to hire him for this season, though. Another former Viper is also in the coaching ranks and still unemployed. It's Cadillac Williams. And with all this money we've got, we might as well make a few upgrades to the Snake Den. Like, how about a mini mall? And let's do a little bit of good for the environment, too, with some rainwater collection. Looking at retired players, it starts off with Shannon Pleasant, drafted the same year as Orlando Cross. We already took a look at his career stats, but he was never able to win a Super Bowl ring. Aaron Rodgers could never get the Colts to the Super Bowl either. He's also hanging up the cleats. We gave Curtis Williams the final loss of his NFL career back in the divisional round of this season. He's hanging up the cleats. Ray Dawkins, successful tank job for the Patriots, getting them the first overall pick. Former first round pick by the Kansas City Chiefs, Jed Gaines, and Joe Smith also retiring. Smith, another draft bust by the Chicago Bears, a guy who really just played here and there, but for being the 18th overall pick, very underwhelming. Only 4 running backs are retiring, one of them being the former MVP Jack Dixon, who hardly touched the ball after that season. No fullbacks retiring. Andre Seymour, the top receiver, retiring, going out on 1 year with the Houston Texans, but I think most of his playing days was in Green Bay. Ray Glenn is going to retire. Johnny Johnson of the Cincinnati Bengals, solid journeyman wide receiver. Champ Michaels, he was a good receiver for the Saints. Warren Davis retires with just 10 punt return touchdowns. Some solid tight ends are going to be leaving the game, including Nate Sanford of the San Diego Chargers. You got veteran tight end Mark Orlando with the Redskins, Brooks on the Patriots, and Campbell on the Cowboys. Some older offensive linemen, of course, are going to be retiring, including some of the last real players. and outside of maybe a couple kickers and punters, it might be all computer-generated players now. All of these centers were drafted in either 2007 or 8. Marcus Fears and Kendrick Spriggs are retiring. You got Tommy Harris retiring, another real-life player there hanging up the cleats. Travis Smith is going to be retiring with the New York Jets, but he was really a menace in Seattle, giving us a lot of problems in his early days. Willie Delgado, star linebacker, who spent some time in Albuquerque. Smith is going to be retiring. Parker, Richardson, Quinn. Only one middle linebacker retiring in Josh Langham. Denver's losing some other defensive players, though, including Terrence Emmanuel. You got Peyton retiring with the Redskins, Campbell, Brandit. Glenn Beal goes out on top with the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, he had a big tackle on 4th down in that game. And you hate to see this, a career-ending injury for a pretty solid safety for the Detroit Lions. They took him in the first round a number of years ago out of Bowling Green, finished with 14 career interceptions. Looks like he may have dealt with injuries in the past as he missed all of 2016. Henry Scott's going to retire. Curry, Brooks, Emmanuel, Bob Waller, who actually played with us way back in the day. That is a name I haven't heard in a long time. Marquez Keys, Kendrick Jones, Bobby Glover, Josh Brown, another real-life player, retiring at the age of 42, along with a couple of punters. All these retirements here, but not a single one for the Vipers. Scrolling through the restricted free agents here, seeing if there's one player that maybe I want to pursue, and Arizona is giving up their 3rd overall pick as compensation to the New Orleans Saints for a good cornerback. I mean, he's a 92 overall, but you're giving up your 3rd overall pick for him when you're desperately in need of a quarterback? I swear there must be some kind of conspiracy between these two teams, because they gave up the 1st overall pick to the Saints a year ago and moved back in the 1st round, and I think they only got a 2nd round pick along with it. I'm just saying, I think it should be investigated, as the Niners are signing away Minnesota's starting quarterback for a 2nd round pick there as a restricted free agent. No restricted free agents for Albuquerque, though. Now, for the first time in this series, I am going to be implementing some hard house rules. Now, I've kind of had some general ones where I don't go after all the best players, because it's really not that hard to get some of the best players in free agency and whatnot. But here are some hard rules I'm putting down, kind of inspired by what Miles Dawkins does over on his channel, but I'm modifying them a little bit for this series and probably future series on the channel. It's really 2 rules, namely I can only sign one player that is over an 80 overall or higher during this re-sign players period. I also can't give out like extensions to players with expiring deals to kind of like avoid that. It forces me to kind of cycle through players more and make it more realistic, because teams don't hold on to all of their best players. And with the way that the salary cap is in this game, as you can see, we are paying some of the best players in the NFL big money and have over $185 million in cap room that's never going to get filled out. By implementing this rule, I'm hoping that we can still hold on to some good players. That way, if a star player's contract is coming up, we don't have to let them hit free agency. We just have to pick and choose which ones we keep. I will say, along with that though, I'm also allowed to use the franchise tag, so I can technically sign up to 2 players in this period, but the franchise tag is only a 1-year deal, which just pushes it back to next season. And then we could end up having some kind of Kirk Cousins or T. Higgins type of scenario where we're franchise tagging the same player multiple years. The other rule applies to free agency. I can only sign 3 players that are 80 overall or higher during the offseason free agency. This includes both waves. Once we are past the offseason and into the regular season, it's free game from there. However, I am allowed to go after players that I did not re-sign during the most recent re-sign players period. That way, it's a little bit more competitive to get some of those guys and kind of forces me to look elsewhere too. Hopefully that all makes sense. I'll leave the rules down in the description too. If you have any questions about it, go ahead and ask them in the comment section. We currently have 6 players that are an 80 overall or higher with expiring contracts. One of them being our left tackle, Nate Cobb, who at an 88 overall is actually one of the highest rated in the league, but he's also 33 years old. I'm not sure if I want to really keep him around, especially if he's going to be retiring in a few years and regressing. It looks like Elijah Farr actually progressed. He was below an 80 overall at one point. I was thinking about keeping him around, maybe even playing him at fullback, but at this point, I'm not going to. And obviously, Harold White is not going to be getting a new contract. I don't think he can show his face in Albuquerque again after the Super Bowl. Honestly, I feel like we did get kind of lucky with these rules hitting us right now. Next season, it won't be as nice though. You got guys like McGuire, Deron Daniels contract expiring, Brian Koch, you got Tommy Wynn. There's some great players here that I would love to bring back next season, but I'm not going to be able to do that for everyone. In fact, next year might hit us real hard. You also have Darren Gordon, Darius Floyd, and Brian Moore's contracts are up. But we're going to worry about that later. Right now, Mark Scott, I think, is actually going to be the one that we bring back. He is kind of old for a corner at 34, but we might as well give him this 2-year deal. They always come back on a very team-friendly contract, which is another reason why I'm implementing these rules. He's coming off the best year of his career, though. Bring that beautiful afro back. Now, I could franchise tag one of these guys like Javon Anthony or Nate Cobb, but they're both on the wrong side of 30 now, so I think I'm going to be letting everyone else go. Besides Ryan Franks, that is, he's under an 80 overall, so he's free game, and he's like a drug that I can't quit. I just like having the speedy running back around. So with all that out of the way now, let's advance to free agency. Well, I accidentally exited out of the free agent section after it had wrapped up, and I can't go back in there, so I'm just going to try to highlight some key free agent signings right now, just going through the rosters. I'll highlight our signings here in a second, but first, Benji Barton leaves San Francisco and he went out to Indianapolis. After that move, I sent over Darius Floyd and a 5th round pick for their 4th round pick. He's an aging veteran with only 1 year left on his deal, and he played with Benji Barton for 2 years in San Francisco. The main reason I felt comfortable trading him is not only did he only have 2 catches throughout our entire playoff run, but we signed Hakeem Morton, who had less catches than Floyd in the Super Bowl, of course, the Ravens star receiver, hitting free agency here, but I knew that we needed another wide receiver, similar speed to Jimmy Andrews, but he should have much better hands. Nate Cobb also didn't have a big market, so I brought him back, as well as Javon Anthony. Some other big moves include Parrish Walker to the Raiders, who were also able to sign Spencer Taylor, one of the best running backs a season ago for the Carolina Panthers. He was almost the rookie of the year. I'm pretty sure the reason he got released though was because his morale was all the way down. As you can see, he seems to be much happier playing for the Raiders. Despite receiving a new deal a season ago, Wayne Rivers, Super Bowl champion for the Seattle Seahawks, was cut, and the Lions happily picked him up. They also signed John Wade, who used to be on the Oakland Raiders, a star wide receiver, but he is starting to age. Former Lions quarterback Rob Miller is the new signal caller in San Francisco. John Owens goes from Chicago to Philadelphia. DeJon Beasley looks like he could be the Chargers starter, and Nate Thomas goes from the Browns to the Bears. But man, I really wish I didn't accidentally skip through all that free agency to show you guys like Jermaine George also joining the Raiders, and I'm remembering now they got a couple of good corners, including Bobby McDowell, and I think one of these other guys they just signed too. In fact, they're just taking Chicago's entire secondary. Another big player who was on the move is Scott Young, receiver going from Indianapolis to KC. I was really hoping Walter Pittman's deal would expire, but Cleveland did re-sign him. He went off in the Pro Bowl, and I was really hoping to use that 99 speed. But it does make sense that they would hold on to him. Josh Swan is now in Buffalo, and Mark Carson in Cincinnati. Seattle also lost Travaris Claybrooks over to the Green Bay Packers now. The best available center signed with Kansas City. The best right tackle, Lonnie Hughes, is with New England now. Baltimore also lost Rashad Watkins to Atlanta. Speaking of Watkins, Michael Watkins re-signed with the Bears after he hit free agency, and then another Watkins on the defensive line. I believe he re-signed with the Saints after hitting free agency. One of the best outside linebackers in the league is now with the Colts, and I thought about signing Warren Larson, but he ended up going with Tennessee. 99 overall free safety Chris Holiday leaves Buffalo for Philadelphia, and our former safety Wade Schmidt is now in Green Bay. And I think the last player I'm going to highlight for now at least is Jason Van Dyke, the best strong safety on the market, signing with Denver. I really wish I didn't skip through that on accident. Now we're going to be going to the draft, and you know what? I'm actually going to play the College All-Star game. The reason for that being, I want to see what some of these young players can do. Craig is one of the only players that is listed as a scrambling quarterback, and you know I like those kinds of players. I'm not saying I need Michael Vick or anything like that, and I'm not against using a pocket passer, but I like someone who can get around. And with Orlando Cross getting older, we need to start really thinking about a replacement for him, Craig is going to take this one himself. Can he convert on fourth down? No. That's okay. It allows us to look at some of the quarterbacks on the other side and don't get Craig Smith confused with Randy Craig. It's kind of confusing having so many Craigs out here, as now Craig Smith is going to be taken down. But I've already noticed he does have a bigger vision cone than the other Craig. He's going to get this pass out to Dixon, and how is that not a first down? Guess it's time to see how good Bennett, the rookie running back, is, and he looks really slow, but he does get it. I'm not going to play this whole game. I just want to get a good feel for what some of these rookie quarterbacks could be and see if they're worth possibly trading up for. This is going to be a corner shot. Slater did a great job getting up there, just couldn't keep his feet in bounds. And I'm not here to score points. I'm here to evaluate talent, which is why we're going for the touchdown. Craig is back out there on the field, and he has a very small vision cone. But the nice thing with getting him is that maybe he could sit behind Cross and develop for a few years, because it clearly looks like he needs it. I do want to get another feel for his scrambling ability and how fast he might be. Doesn't feel like he has the strongest arm. How does he handle this 4th and 21 situation now? It's not great. But how much of that is his fault and how much of it is mine? It might be a lot of user error, honestly. Now to get a good feel for his actual scrambling ability, and it's really not too shabby. His speed might be around 77 or so, which really is not too shabby. And his arm doesn't seem to be awful. Although if I do spend a first-round pick on him, I want him to have a strong enough arm. This is a pretty good shot to the end zone. Another knock on him is he's only 5'11", which is pretty short for a QB. He might be a Russell Wilson kind of quarterback, just with the scrambling and with the stature. And before I exit out of this game, I do want to see what some of the other quarterbacks are like. In the game now is Lamar Tate. He is 6'7", and he kind of feels like he has a cannon for an arm. That wasn't the cleanest look at his potential arm strength. How about letting it fly right here? And wow, he can really heave it deep. But if that's what we want, we already have Antonio McGuire on the roster, who we don't need to trade up to get. Blaine Brown is the final quarterback I want to take a look at, but he's projected to be the first overall pick, so I don't think we're going to get him. He comes out of Miami at 6'4", and he is not the scrambling type. So even though there's pretty much no shot we're going to get this guy, it's fun to play with him as he's got a guy open. Just for fun, I do want to see what he can do on the ground. And yeah, he's running through molasses and losing the football. Well, that's enough of the All-Star game. It's time to put Randy Craig into some practice drills. And I'm just going to go ahead and do all these right now. I'll get back to you once I am able to do all about 7 or so players scouted. All 8 players that I can scout have now been scouted. It started off with some strong safeties in the first round. You got Byron Francis, 6'4". I think he would be great to pair up with Jerry Gray, who I believe is also a 6'4" safety. There's also this guy who is 6'1", but he's a little bit faster at 4'3". Charlie Teague could be our first round pick. Of course, I did want to scout out Randy Craig, the 5'11" scrambling quarterback, so he is on our board. In the second or third round is projected Marcus Levy. He's a little bit of thunder to Deron Daniels, a lightning. That could be fun. He broke a lot of tackles during the practice drill. Mario Bennett as a potential pass rusher here, projected to go in the third round out of Oregon State. Now, Daryl Fannin, he's starting to get up there in age. He's regressed down to a 91 overall. And Prince Harrison, I was the most impressed with him out of all the workouts. I'll put some clips on the screen right now, but we're going to need some help next to Daryl Fannin. He's probably going to retire in a year or two anyway, so I would love to get Prince Harrison projected to go in the third. We might even take him in the second, though. Now we're getting down to the guys projected to go in the 4th or 5th, but Pete Christensen actually had a pretty solid drill as well. As you can see, I only got bronze with him, so didn't really unlock a note or a scouting report on him or anything like that, but could be a good developmental guy for a few seasons. Then you got Goodrich here out of Clemson, last guy I scouted, and as a 6th round projection, probably will not be a starter, but you never know. It's nice to have somewhat of an idea of what's down there in those later rounds, because when you can only scout 8 players, it really makes those later rounds a complete guess.
Welcome to the 2021 NFL Draft. This year's pool of quarterbacks is as deep as it's been in years, with 3 guys heading the class.
Welcome to the 2020 NFL Draft now, as the Cardinals are trading up to the #1 spot with the Patriots. I guess they didn't give up their 3rd overall pick then to the Saints, since they're giving it to New England as well as a 3rd round pick. Are they going to be taking a quarterback of the future? Let's watch the ticker at the bottom. And they do. Blaine Brown out of Miami. Arizona has finally taken a quarterback early in the draft. Will he be their answer, though? It looks like Carolina replaced the running back that they took in the top 5 last year with a top 5 running back this year now. I'm interested to see what New England does here. They didn't need a quarterback. They took one in the first round last year, and now they get him some protection. Jacksonville is desperately in need of a quarterback, and there's 2 projected to go in the top 5, staring them down right now, and they did take one of them. Their preferred selection was Lamar Tate out of Florida State, the 6'7" beast. San Diego could also use a quarterback, and Craig Smith is right there, but instead they take the defensive end. Smith falls out of his projected top 5 spot. I think Dallas could use a quarterback, so I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead and took him here, but they don't, and I don't think Cincinnati needs a quarterback. They ended up going with Tubbs, a free safety out of Kansas State, and I know the Vikings need a quarterback. They didn't sign any in free agency, and they lost theirs to the 49ers during restricted free agency. This seems like an absolute layup for them. The Redskins are also trading up, as are the Cardinals. They have another top pick here. We're going to have to see what happened. So the Cowboys went with Garrett Bennett here, a running back out of Minnesota. And indeed, the Vikings did grab quarterback Craig Smith out of Arizona State, and it looks like the Redskins traded up for a tight end here, Gray out of Kansas State, and the Cardinals got this strong safety out of Tennessee. That was the top 10. Now we're just going to skip to the Vipers' first pick and then recap the draft towards the very end. Well, we have reached the 31st pick of the draft, but as you can see, Jamie Clark is the highest rated quarterback left on the big board. That is because Randy Craig was taken 21st overall by the Philadelphia Eagles, actually tried to trade with Philadelphia to go up and pick him, but obviously they wanted a king's ransom for that pick because they had their eyes set on him. We're going to have to keep an eye on how his career unfolds. The safeties that I wanted in the first round were already taken as well. 13th overall, Byron Francis to Detroit. And then Teague went 20th overall to the Steelers. I haven't scouted any other players projected to go in the first round, and honestly, just looking at the players that are available, none of them really stand out to me. So with that in mind, I've put together a trade package here for the New Orleans Saints, our first round pick, our third round pick, and the fourth round pick that we got in exchange for Darius Floyd over to New Orleans for their second and 2 third-round picks. So we're not going to be getting more picks, but improving the value of 2 of our picks and only moving back 20 or so spots from our first-round position. We have reached the second round. We have the 25th pick, of course, after the trade with the Saints, and we're going to take running back Marcus Levy to our other second-round pick now, and this could be a little bit of a reach on Prince Harrison, but I was just so impressed with his workout. The defensive tackle out of North Carolina is now a Viper. No way. That's insane. This is a wide receiver with the name Glenn Nash. For you OGs, he was the first star in Albuquerque. I mean, I didn't even scout him. He's projected to go in the third round, though. I was just simmed up to our pick. Let's see who else is available. Only one other player that I even scouted. I mean, he doesn't look like he's related to Glenn Nash. Maybe he's adopted. I don't know. A 440 is not bad at all. Do we get the second Glenn Nash in franchise history at wide receiver? I mean, this almost seems too perfect. Wide receiver is not even a big need for us, but I mean, what are the chances? Even the center I scouted, who is projected to go in the fourth round, has already been taken. Nash, it says he's the best player on the board. Close enough. Welcome back, Glenn Nash. And since the only player left who I scouted is projected to go in the 6th round, I'm not going to pull the trigger on that player yet. Maybe I'll go with this cornerback of Vincent Rogers out of Houston. It's only the 4th round, but again, there's no players here that are really sticking out to me. Our biggest need is defensive end to fill on the roster, and even though he's projected to go into the 6th, we're going to get Bryant Goodrich out of Clemson. With our 6th round pick, we're going to go with outside linebacker Kevin Bates out of Florida. And I'm not going to forget to recap the draft like I did free agency. The Bears, with their first 2 picks, took offensive linemen. The Bengals went safety in the 1st round before going center, and then with another free safety, back-to-back, actually 3 straight linebackers for the Buffalo Bills, who still don't have a quarterback until the 7th round. The Broncos went back-to-back on running back-to-back tackles, in fact 3 straight linemen for the Cleveland Browns. Buccaneers go safety with the 12th overall pick. They also double down on wide receiver in the 3rd round. Of course, the Cardinals had 2 first-round picks, one of them on their hopeful quarterback of the future, and also beefing up the defensive side of the ball. Left end went 5th overall to the Chargers. They also got some meat on their offensive line. Left guard to the Kansas City Chiefs, and interesting to see that they took a quarterback in the 2nd round. Their current quarterback, who did lead them to the AFC Conference Championship game, only has 1 year left on his deal. The Colts went with running back in the 1st round. So did the Dallas Cowboys, who went special team later in the draft. Center to the Miami Dolphins. They also got themselves 4 defensive backs. The Eagles took the quarterback that I wanted in the 1st round. They also got a tight end and some offensive line help. Falcons went free safety in the 1st round. Niners went running back in the 1st round, center, and then 2 cornerbacks. The Giants got a safety in the 1st round before getting some pass catchers. The Jaguars took a quarterback 4th overall, which they desperately needed. The Jets took a tight end in the 1st round, and then some linemen in the later rounds. You have Francis going to Detroit, strong safety, with the 13th overall pick. Green Bay went with some offensive line help, and then interesting to see them take a quarterback in the 2nd round, and then a kicker in the 3rd. The Panthers replaced their running back from a year ago with another running back here now, and then also got maybe the best wide receiver in the draft in the 2nd round. New England went left tackle with the 3rd overall pick. They came back into the 1st round to get an outside linebacker. The Raiders went outside linebacker also in the 1st round. The Ravens went middle linebacker, and then they lost a lot of receivers in the offseason, so they replenished them in the 3rd and 4th rounds. The Redskins went tight end in the 1st round. The Saints had 2 first-round picks. One of them was from us. They go left guard and free safety. Back-to-back left tackles for the Seattle Seahawks, who don't have a quarterback right now, and interesting that they didn't take a shot on anybody. The Steelers went with Teague, the strong safety that I liked in the 1st round. Texans went with a right tackle. The Titans took a running back with their first pick of the 2nd round, and then 4 straight defensive backs. And finally, the Vikings took a quarterback with their 1st round pick. With our final pick of the draft, we're going to get Rory Morales, a free safety out of San Diego State. All right, here's a closer look at our draft class. The first player we took in the 2nd round was Marcus Levy, power running back out of Arizona State. He's an 80 overall with 85 speed, 90 agility, and 89 break tackle, which is exactly what I want him to do. I want him to run people over and unleash his inner beast mode. 89 acceleration and 84 strength. Prince Harrison was our next pick. He's only a 75 overall. He has 86 strength, 77 tackle. His awareness is pretty low, but once that gets up, his overall will also rise. Glenn Nash is a 78 overall with 80 catching, only 88 speed, but he was listed as a possession receiver, similar to the former Glenn Nash on this team from the mid-2000s. 87 acceleration and agility, 68 awareness, and 95 jumping. And 94 kick return, which is actually awesome because we don't have a kick returner on the team right now, or at least a designated one. Vincent Rogers, 78 overall, 68 awareness, 93 speed, 57 catching. His acceleration and agility not too bad. His jumping solid at a 90, only 61 tackling, but he is a cornerback. Bryant Goodrich is a 72 overall, but he was projected to be a 6th round pick. 69 strength, 73 tackle, and 74 awareness. Kevin Bates is a 71 overall with 72 tackling, only 55 awareness, but 83 speed is not too bad for a linebacker. And finally, Rory Morales is a 69 overall, only 53 awareness, 60 catching, but 97 speed as a free safety. I was hoping his kick return might be a little better with that speed, but I guess not. I've got to see how good Randy Craig is though. 81 overall. He has 74 speed. I thought it might be a little bit higher than that. 98 throw power. I thought it would be closer to like 90 or in the high 80s. Only 82 accuracy, but obviously that can go up. The Eagles might have gotten a good one. I think Arizona got a good one too. Blake Brown is an 88 overall with a 99 throw power, 91 accuracy, already up to 78 awareness as a rookie. We might be in trouble inside of our division. Jacksonville took Lamar Tate in the first round as well. 4th overall, 97 throw power, 82 accuracy, 79 awareness. So not a bad quarterback in Duval. And the other quarterback taken highly was Craig Smith out of Arizona State, the teammate of the running back that we took in the 2nd round. He comes in with 94 throw power and 86 throw accuracy, 79 awareness for those Minnesota Vikings. And as good as Spencer Taylor was for Carolina in his rookie season, Kurt Wilder, who they just drafted, might actually be even better. I'm not going to skip over the second wave of free agency. Let's quickly recap it now. Phil Cox was the highest rated quarterback. He was terrible last season for San Diego. Actually, maybe that was a few years ago where he consistently threw way more interceptions than touchdowns. He lands a backup job in Green Bay. Jose Johnson is added to a loaded Philadelphia Eagles quarterback room. Anthony McCollum goes from leading Atlanta to the playoffs to now fighting for a job in Tennessee. Carson signs with the Buccaneers, Morton with the Atlanta Falcons, Schultz with the Chargers, Joel Denham also goes to the Chargers, Rondell Vickers, who was only with San Diego for a single season, he was with us back in 2019, put up very similar numbers and he should be solid for the Buccaneers. Maddox signs with the Chicago Bears. You got the Bengals and Panthers coming down with some running backs as well. 2 fullbacks were signed. Joe Ham was the top receiver available. He lands in Jacksonville. The Texans signed 2 receivers, including Glenn Hughes, who they get back. He had been with them for the previous 3 seasons. Roscoe Wilson is a New Orleans Saint. Texans get another receiver. Kyle Thomas goes to Washington, as does Reginald Jammer. Caldwell goes to the Miami Dolphins, and it looks like Randy Simpson is a Cardinal. The Vikings get the best available tight end in Falk. When it comes to the offensive line, best left tackle goes over to Indianapolis. Only 2 left guards were signed. Best center available goes to Baltimore. Best right guard available goes to the Bears, and the best right tackle also goes to Indianapolis. John Fields goes to the Cleveland Browns. Meanwhile, Dave Fields signs with the Philadelphia Eagles. Dante Loynes spent some time with us, of course, this past year. He is also now down in Tampa Bay. As you see there, we did sign Corey Sexton just to be a depth piece for us. Deion Bradford signs with the Colts, and our former defensive tackle, he was with us the last 2 seasons. Larry Bundy is now a Viking. Earl Claybrooks was one of the highest rated free agents still available. The outside linebacker is going to New York, and Eugene Thomas, who was our first round pick, I believe, all the way back in 2011, lands in Carolina. Matt Harris goes to Kansas City. You have the top rated outside linebacker going to the Ravens, but Gibson's not too bad either as he goes to New York. Frank Holmes goes to Washington. The Lions grab 2 cornerbacks, including Roland Waters, who has been with us for the last few years now. Top free safety goes to the Denver Broncos, and the other one goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Steve Baldwin signs with the Carolina Panthers. You have Charles Cross going to the Indianapolis Colts, and Todd Washington gets cut by the Browns and lands in Atlanta. We did sign one other player during the second wave of free agency, and it was UDFA James Burnsides. He's only a 70 overall. It says he was taken in the 7th round, but he was undrafted because he was available when I was picking second to last in the draft, and we'll at least see what he can do during the preseason. It looks like Seattle and Buffalo both did sign quarterbacks during this period, and I believe they're both going to be the highest rated on their respective teams, and we could see some normally good teams struggle. Drew Lloyd also got cut by the Arizona Cardinals and is still available. Here's a look at our depth chart. Going into the 2021 season, Orlando Cross has regressed down to a 97 overall. His speed is down to 55, so pretty pedestrian now, and I think his throw power also took a little bit of a hit, so he is definitely starting to regress. Antonio McGuire will be his backup, and Ron Coyle currently is the QB3. Deron Daniels is of course going to be your starting running back. I got the rookie Levy, though, at the number 2 spot with Ryan Franks at number 3. Craig Roberts is still on the roster for now. Ben Strong, of course, at fullback. Hakeem Morton's going to be our new wide receiver 1. Jimmy Andrews lining up opposite him. Brian Moore in the slot, followed by Glenn Nash and Kurt Workman, and then finally Burt Myers. Von Lewis and Lawyer Dumas are our tight ends. Nate Cobb at left tackle, Santiago at left guard, Diamond at center, Flanagan at right guard, and Watson still at right tackle, so the exact same offensive line. J.J. Jones will be getting the start in a contract year. He has been listed as a bust, and I thought about trading him, but we needed someone to start at this position. Chris Diggs will be opposite him with Sexton backing him up. Daryl Fannin, still a 91 overall, so still a great player. I decided to put Prince Harrison in the number 2 spot, although Lopez will probably get some playing time. Roger Long at left outside linebacker, Tommy Wynn at middle linebacker with Carlos Devlin behind him, then Javon Anthony at right outside linebacker, Darren Gordon, highest rated corner in the NFL, and Justin Williams, the second highest rated corner in the NFL. We've got probably one of the best secondaries, at least on paper, going into the year. Jerry Gray is up to an 87 overall, so he went up about 5 overalls during the offseason, and Vince Taylor's a 91. Brian Koch as our kicker, Sleepy Corrales as our punter. Glenn Nash is set to be our kick returner and our punt returner as well. And the reason that I say Craig Roberts is on the roster for now is because I'm looking to move him. Yes, he had the best year of his career this season, but also 5 fumbles, and that was in limited playing time. And so I'm really not too impressed, and we got to open up some space in the backfield. So we're going to be sending him to Miami for a 5th round pick. We could get more, but I think this is a pretty realistic trade for a backup running back. Well, it's making us also throw in a right guard in there because Miami is over the player limit, but we're just going to cut Willis. Into training camp now, and I'm going to focus on the rookies and young players on this team to develop them and increase their attributes. And why not start off with Marcus Levy? Ron Coyle had a solid training camp as well, and let's boost up his awareness to raise his vision cone. Prince Harrison also had a solid training camp, getting 3 points to use. The new Glenn Nash also got 3 points to use, and we're going to put that in the catching and acceleration. Vincent Rogers had an okay training camp, but we're going to improve his jumping, and with all that out of the way, it will bring an end to training camp. That's going to do it for this video. We've got the preseason coming up next. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leaving a like is always appreciated, and until next time, this has been Jeffrey.